ASEAN says the grouping of Southeast Asian nations will not give up on peace in Myanmar, and that's despite making little progress so far. Indonesian President Joko Widodo chairing a summit of ASEAN leaders, saying he is ready to talk to all stakeholders, and that includes Myanmar's military government. CNA's Chani Bhavani with this report.
Strong and somber words marking the end of the 42nd ASEAN Summit in Labuan Bajo. The spotlight on Myanmar. In a press conference, President Joko Widodo reiterated that injury to human values cannot be tolerated and ASEAN must engage with all stakeholders. He repeated his call to put a stop to violence, saying the people must be protected. And he went on to further highlight the complexities of the situation in Myanmar, saying ASEAN must hold on to inclusivity because ASEAN's credibility is at stake and that Indonesia is ready to talk to anyone, including the military regime and all stakeholders in Myanmar for humanitarian purposes. ASEAN, he said, will continue to encourage the implementation of the 5-point consensus, to encourage dialogue not only with the military regime, as there were many parties and interests involved, and so it was necessary to encourage the creation of as many dialogues as possible and facilitate the AHA Center to carry out their duties. Now, I was able to see a copy of the executive report from the ASEAN Foreign Ministers meeting on 9th of May here in Labuan Bajo, and the meeting noted the call from some ASEAN member states to bring Myanmar back to the foreign ministers' meetings and summits, noting the time for isolation has served its purpose. Now, I asked President Widodo whether ASEAN would consider doing so. He said, according to the leaders' decision, Myanmar was not invited to the political level meeting, and Indonesia has undertaken non-megaphone diplomacy to various stakeholders in Myanmar in accordance with the mandate of the 5-point consensus. He was also hopeful that Myanmar would conduct dialogue internally. Let's take a listen.
We hope Myanmar also has political commitment to dialogue internally between them. And what I need to emphasize once again is engagement doesn't mean recognition.
Foreign Affairs Minister Retno Marsudi echoed the president's sentiment, saying ASEAN would not give up.
The lack of progress of the 5-point of consensus, the implementation of 5PC, does not mean ASEAN has to give up, especially giving up the principle in the ASEAN Charter.
The chairman's statement of the 42nd ASEAN Summit, meanwhile, showed leaders adopting a number of declarations, including on tackling human trafficking due to technology abuse, protection of migrant workers and their family, regional payment connectivity and promotion of local currency transactions, a One Health initiative, and adoption of the roadmap for Timor-Leste's full membership in ASEAN. Leaders welcomed ongoing efforts to strengthen cooperation between ASEAN and China and were encouraged by the progress of negotiations towards the early conclusion of an effective and substantive code of conduct in the South China Sea. And finally, the statement reiterated ASEAN's unified position that the 5-point consensus remains the main reference. Chani Bhavani, CNA, Labuan Bajo.